Thank you for joining us. Our top story tonight, the mum, who says her son's smile saved her life. Bev Whittam was so severely depressed after giving birth, she was on the verge of suicide and spent 3 months in hospital in Leeds. Now, she says she felt unable to cope with looking after herself or her new family. Now, Bev's not alone. The illness affects up to 15% of new mums. And in Yorkshire, that's almost 10,000 women every year. And today, there were calls in Parliament for a wider awareness of the effects of postnatal depression and more support for those suffering from it. Emma Glasby has this.
OK, then 12 times 12.
Hard to believe now that Bev was once so crippled with postnatal depression, she was suicidal. When her son Nathan was 8 months old, Bev left the family home in East Ardsley to go swimming at a nearby pool, but found herself by the sea in Northumberland.
I was just looking out to sea thinking, I don't want my life anymore, I don't like who I am. But I couldn't have left Nathan there, and I just thought, well, maybe it's best if I just picked him up and just walked off into the sea. And I looked down and I just looked at him in his little pushchair and he just gave me the biggest smile. And I still say to this day that his smile saved our lives.
Bev and Nathan then spent 3 months living here.
It became a downward spiral for me.
Today, Bev and her family have returned to visit the mother and baby unit in Leeds, and the doctors, she says, saved her life.
I felt dead. I just felt empty. I just don't want people to get to the situation where I got.
Postnatal depression affects almost 10,000 women a year in Yorkshire. Mums with the most severe cases are admitted here with their babies. But there are just 5 beds, and the unit serves all of Yorkshire.
We are a busy unit and we are often full. There probably aren't enough beds available for the area that we're covering, and we know there are gaps in provision of mother and baby units across the country.
Today the issue has been raised in Parliament. The Huddersfield MP says he's concerned new mums face a postcode lottery when it comes to getting support.
Very patchy. Some parts of the country very good indeed. This is why we need a national campaign, a regional campaign, because it's not only not well known, there's a kind of feeling of, do I admit to this? Is it respectable to admit that I'm suffering from depression when I should be my happiest?
Bev and Nathan now raise money for the mother and baby unit in the hope it will help other mums. Emma Glasby, BBC Look North, East Ardsley.
Well, today the Department of Health said they had clear targets to reduce postnatal depression through earlier diagnosis. They added, midwives, health visitors and family nurses provide this vital support, and we have invested in over 1,300 more midwives since May 2010.
Now, a record 5,000 will qualify in the next 3 years. We're also increasing the number of health visitors and family nurses who offer support to women.
Well, we're joined now by Chris Bingley from Huddersfield. Chris, you have first-hand experience of postnatal depression, very sadly. Tell us what happened to your wife.
Unfortunately, my wife was suffering with severe postnatal depression, and she wasn't receiving the treatment that we expected she should have been receiving, and she went and actually killed herself in April of 2010. She committed suicide on the train line.
How quickly did you notice she was struggling?
She died when my daughter was 10 weeks old, and basically from about week 6 or 7 things just quite suddenly happened. She was feeling suicidal, she was looking at killing herself and the baby. The mental health crisis team did come out, but at that time I didn't realise that basically the services that are available in Leeds, these mother and baby units and these specialist services, we weren't told about those at all. We knew nothing about them.
What kind of a difference do you think it would have made if she had been offered a bed in a unit like the one that we've seen there?
The independent investigation into what happened with Jo said that on the clinical evidence she should have been hospitalised 3 days before she died, and she would still be here today. And the sad fact is 8 out of every 10 deaths are avoidable. If it's picked up and treated early enough, they are completely avoidable.
The staggering statistic there, though, is that 15% of women, after having a baby, suffer from this as well.
It is, but what's more important is if anybody, as a mum, if you've had previous mental issues like Joe had, it raises from 1 in 10, 1 in 15 to 1 in 2, so there's a 50% chance. So you need to be aware if you have had any kind of mental illness before, that it really does have a significant change.
Of course, one of the most difficult things about postnatal depression is admitting that you have it, isn't it?
That's correct, and at the end of the day, I know there's this stigma around this, but the whole point of campaigning, which is why Barry and myself are doing this, is to raise awareness. A, so people understand these specialist services are available, therefore they know that they should be able to get them, and B, we need to make sure these facilities are available.
Chris, thank you very much indeed for joining us. A difficult subject to talk about, we appreciate. We've had a lot of reaction to this story from you. We always appreciate that, of course, as well. You've been getting in touch with us on Facebook all morning to let us know how postnatal depression has affected you.
Well, Tracy Lee writes, my GP had the attitude that it was just postnatal depression and threw tablets at the problem. But after 7 years of fighting, I was given counselling and I've never looked back.
And Graham Bacon said it can be fobbed off as, oh, it's just PND, and the mother is cared for to a minimum standard only. It's time for the health service to really help these women get over what is certainly an illness.
And Amy Jane Brown said, I suffered with postnatal depression after my first child. I was having realistic dreams about death all day, every day, and it made me housebound because I was scared to put myself and my son in any sort of danger. It went undetected for 12 months. She said it was her family and her friends who supported her, not healthcare professionals.
You can comment on this story or any of our other stories on our Facebook page, BBC Look North Yorkshire, or you can send us an email. Our address is look.north